It's time to find out
What Shane said.
with Shane Manila.
And we're back. What's up, world? It's Shane. Shane says, was out last week, no show. I was on vacation, missed everyone. Hopefully you missed me. Or maybe you didn't even notice. Whichever. I was back this past Tuesday. Did a stream, Dynasty Trades in 5 on the YouTubes every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m.-ish. Myself, Scott, and Clay, Dynasty Trades in 5. Good show. Towards the end of the show, there was a subject that came up, or at least it was in the comments, that we didn't get to address. But I thought it was interesting. It stuck in my head. Someone in the stream noted that sometimes we don't take chances, or they don't believe we take chances enough on players. They think maybe we're losing an edge there, us as in the community, or maybe just us as Dynasty Trades in 5. I wasn't really sure. I didn't get a chance to clear that up. But either way, making bets on players. Now, considering that most everyone, I believe, knows how to roster construct correctly, I think most people understand how to build a team in a super flex league, that you're building through the quarterbacks, that you're building through the wide receivers, generally adding running backs as a last piece, not adding running backs unless you're a contender, things like that. Those edges might kind of be gone, right? People know how to roster construct. People know how to build teams. A lot of times people also know not to accept process trades anymore from us. If I'm trying to trade within a tier, one player in a tier for another player in a tier and get something on top, working on or trying to capitalize on player biases, a lot of people are onto that too. So maybe there is one place, sure, there's other ways to get edges, but one edge that we can get is betting on players. I kind of agree with the sentiment, Largely, I do lean towards buying known assets. A.J. Brown, ARSB, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, etc. Generally, I feel that that's the way I want to go. I want to pay up, and I have no problem paying the full price, assuming I could afford it, or put it on layaway using 25 and 26 picks. I have no problem paying up for elite players, but that's not always possible, right? Sometimes elite players just aren't on the block. Sometimes they're on contending teams, that are very good and have absolutely no reason whatsoever to move that player, even if you were to overpay for them. Sometimes you don't have the assets to afford players. You can't just go out and buy hammers, right? You don't have 425 firsts to spend. You don't have multiple receivers in a wide receiver 2 range to consolidate to move up to an elite player. Maybe you can't consolidate in that league. It's a shallow league. So how do you get these elite players? Well, obviously one way is through rookie drafts. You accrue a lot of rookie picks, take a lot of shots. Another way though is you make calculated bets on players that you want to buy. You want to make bets on, right? Sometimes you're going to do this on players that have a little doubt tied to them. Players that might not have done it in the league as yet. Talking about some rookies. We'll get there. I'm going to name some players. But yeah, a little bit of doubt. And I don't mean, I need to put this out there, I don't mean players like, obviously, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown. Those are elite players. And I also don't mean players like Jameson Williams. I'm not talking about buying low. I'm not talking about buying on players that you don't have a reason to expect good things based on what they've done in their career so far. I'm talking about players that have, either produced not at all because they're coming right out of college, or players that maybe they did produce, but there's still doubt tied to that. So understand when we're making these bets, that might mean that we're going to pay the full cost right then and there for that player, which is fine. You might even have to pay a little bit over market value. That's fine too, because in the end, what we're trying to do is buy a player today that we think is going to accrue in value, right? Because obviously we're making bets on players that we think are going to be elite. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do in Dynasty football, right? We're trying to acquire elite assets at the cheapest price point possible. Pretty simple. That's what we want to do. How do I get a future wide receiver 1 for as cheap as possible so that I don't deplete everything in my my war chest, and then the rest of my team is not good? And just at a point of sometimes it feels like it might be expensive to buy a player right now. Like I said, you might be paying a little bit more. But think about it in these terms, and I'll use real life, practical, real world examples. There you go. Justin Jefferson, for example, May 2022, he was the wide receiver 30 per KTC. Obviously, that was prior to his rookie season. So, yeah, you didn't know what he was going to do, but you had reason to believe that he could be really good based off his college profile, what he did in college. Anyway, so he's the wide receiver 30 at that point, May 2022, using KTC as the rankings. By May 2021, he was the wide receiver 1. So anything you would have sent for him, even an overpay, let's say you would have sent a first and a wide receiver, top 15 wide receiver, he would have looked like an absolute genius the following season. Now, you could also find players that you could buy for even cheaper, because you could look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver 32 in July 2022. That was in between his rookie and his second season. Wide receiver 32 at that point. Back then, you could have bought him for, and these are real trades that I found on the Dynasty League football website using their trade finder. Several fun ones. Second round pick for ARSB. Zach Ertz for ARSB. James Conner for ARSB. Brandon Cooks and Jeff Wilson for Amon-Ra St. Brown in a second round pick. Now, again, these are players at different levels that gave us reason to expect or hope for more. And ARSB was a player that we really didn't even need to pay that much for to make a bet on. You can find those players. Those are really the players that you want to make bets on, right? They don't cost that much. Today's examples probably won't be that, but that's okay. Because what I wanted to show with this show is that I'm willing to make big bets. So, again, we want to be calculated. We want to look for players that have given us a reason, some data to believe that could be elite, right? So, players that I want to make a big bet on. Right off the bat, obviously, I feel like this is my dude, Devon Achane. Last year, he had 3 weeks of 25-point-plus games, ranked third among running backs. He had 5 weeks with at least 20 fantasy points last year, ranked fourth among running backs, despite playing just 11 games. I will concede that there probably will be some regression to his efficiency, because if there is not regression to that, he's the greatest running back of all time. So I'll concede that. He had a 1.36 fantasy points per opportunity last year, first among running backs. But he does have room for additional usage. Last year, he averaged just 12.7 opportunities per game. That's targets plus rushing attempts. College, his last 2 seasons, he averaged 17.5 touches, not opportunities, actual touches, rushing attempts, and receptions. I don't know where to find targets, how many targets in college. So if anyone knows that, please let me know in the comments. But either way, he averaged 5 more actual touches in college than he did even opportunities in the NFL. He was really low in opportunity share, 40s, in the mid 40s, I believe, right, roughly the mid 40s, like 41, 44, somewhere in between there. Either way, ton of time and a ton of room for regression as far as opportunity. He definitely could see a lot more opportunity. Yeah, his snap share, he was only 43rd. His opportunity share, he ranked 41st. He was not used a lot. Now, and that was in rushing. In receiving, his target share was good, 19th in the league among running backs. Not bad, but its routes run was only 44, ranked 44th in the league. So either way, there's room for regression. There's room for more touches. Some real-world trades that I found via Dynasty Daddy's trade database. These were made today. Today, not when you're watching this, but today when I'm recording this. Devon Achane let's go the other way. It's Tajay Spears, Josh Downs, and a 2025 third for Devon Achane. I would absolutely break my phone, my laptop, even if it's not a touchscreen, accepting that deal. That's like some of those ARSB deals that I just talked about. That's ridiculously low. Another trade I saw made today, a little more expensive. Giving up Saquon Barkley and a 206 for Devon Achane and the 210. That rookie draft clearly hasn't happened yet. So good for you guys holding out. I don't have that kind of willpower. I would have hoped that my league would have already drafted it and would have been mad that they didn't. Anyway, you're obviously paying a little more giving up Saquon Barkley and the 206 there than the previous trade. But again, you're making the bet. You're making the bet on Devon Achane based off what you've seen, being elite, being a hammer. Where Saquon Barkley, outside of one season, really hasn't been elite. And he's obviously 28 years old. There's some injury concerns there, much more long-term than Devon Achane's. There are reasons for optimism, but either way, I'm willing to bet on Devon Achane over Saquon Barkley. At the price of a 206, moving back from the 206 to the 210, don't care. Another trade, George Pickens and DeAndre Swift for Devon Achane and a round 2 pick, 2025 round 2. It's a great deal. I'd make that deal all day. Devon Achane is gettable. Devon Achane is a running back that I would pay a first for. There's only a select few running backs that I am willing to pay a first for today, not in season, today, willing to pay a first for. Devon Achane being one of them. I think this time next year, he is a running back that could be completely priced out of. If you do not have him, you're not going to be able to afford him. Another guy, my next player that I'm targeting, talk about him all the time. I love him. Puka Nacua. Okay, going back to 2020, there have been 6 rookie wide receivers to score 17 or more fantasy points per game. Those would be in the order from lowest to the highest: Michael Thomas, Justin Jefferson, Puka, Anquan Bolden, Jamar Chase, Odell Beckham Jr. That is a hell of a list. Okay, just looking at his cohorts from his rookies, what he did in his rookie season gives you a list that is out of this world. I am all in on Puka Nacua without a doubt. So I've sent out a couple offers on Puka Nacua. They're sitting out there. They haven't been rejected. I haven't gotten any word from the owners yet. Talked about that in the last Shane Says. Hit accept, reject, counter, something. Do something. So yeah, I have one offer out there. A lot of Brandon Ayuk, trying to use Brandon Ayuk. I offered someone Brandon Ayuk and a 26 first for Puka Nacua. Another league, Brandon Ayuk and a 25 first for Puka Nacua. That also relates a little bit to the episode I had last week about, I don't want to say mid because I don't believe Brandon Ayuk is a mid wide receiver, but maybe an excess wide receiver. So Brandon Ayuk and a future first for Puka Nacua is something that I'm willing to do based on the fact, again, look at the wide receivers that did what Puka did and what they've done in their careers afterwards. Multiple wide receiver 1 seasons, multiple top 6 seasons. Odell Beckham Jr. was great, except for injuries. I mean, that list is just bananas. The worst player on that list was Anquan Bolden. That's saying something. So anyway, I'm willing to pay that price right now again because I think you'll be locked out this time next year in Puka. If he comes out and drops another 17-point season on you, and I've talked about that. If you go back to one of Shane Says episodes about repeatability, wide receivers hitting 17 points per game, it's about 50% players back-to-back doing that. You do it 1 year, it's about a 50% chance you do it the following year. So he'd be in elite company. I think he will. The last player, it's a rookie. I wanted to throw a rookie in there, right? Malik Nabers. I love me some Malik Nabers. For whatever it's worth, I preach, or I practice what I preach. I have Malik Nabers in 7 leagues? 7 leagues, yes. So I have him in about 20% of my rosters, and he is my most owned wide receiver. Why I'm targeting Malik Nabers is an absolute stellar collegiate profile. Talking about 86th percentile in breakout age, 94th percentile in target share. That's per player profiler, per PFF. Just looking at some of the advanced metrics. He had a better PFF receiving grade than Marvin Harrison Jr. and Rome Odunze. He had more targets. He had a better reception rate, and he had a yet better yards per route run, 3.81, which bested Marvin Harrison, who had 3.44, who was the wide receiver 1 of this rookie class. I'm willing to overpay for Malik Nabers. Obviously, I'd overpay for Marvin Harrison too, but Malik Nabers, I think, is a little easier, a little more gettable than Marvin Harrison. Again, I'm trying to use Brandon Ayuk, and if someone counters and they don't like this, I'll add to it, but I offered Brandon Ayuk and a 25 first for Malik Nabers. Another league, I offered Brandon Ayuk and Devonta Smith, at least one excess wide receiver in that Devonta Smith. For Malik Nabers and Josh Palmer. Again, what I'm looking for is trying to get an elite player and moving players that aren't elite or elite assets that aren't elite to get an elite player. I love Devonta Smith. Look at the A.J. Brown behind me. Listen to my voice. I'm Philly thrown through. I love Devonta Smith. Dude is not elite. Dude is a good wide receiver. Doubtful that he'll ever be elite. Brandon Ayuk, very good wide receiver. I do not see Brandon Ayuk as being elite. And when I talk elite, I'm talking top 6 type wide receivers. That's in Malik Nabers' range of outcomes. One deal, at least one person paid attention to me. One person. I sent them an offer, of Brandon Ayuk and Keon Coleman, trying a rookie, for Malik Nabers. They countered back with Brandon Ayuk for Rome Odunze. That caught my eye, caught my interest. I went ahead and made that deal. Rome Odunze is another guy that I'm willing to pay, clearly, at least the iron price or a little bit over. You let me know what you think of that deal. You think I overpaid for Rome Odunze there, giving up Brandon Ayuk? Again, looking at Rome Odunze's college profile, stellar. It's also stellar, just like just like Malik Nabers. Not as good, but a very good collegiate profile. So he's a player I'm betting on. Maybe I could have gotten lower in season if Keenan Allen, DJ Moore both stay healthy. It might be hard for Rome Odunze to flash. Maybe I could have got him for cheaper in season, but didn't feel like taking that risk. That's it. 3 players I'm making bets on. I think I explained the reason why, right? End of the day, what we're doing is trying to get elite players. We're trying to move players that we know or have a pretty much strong reason to believe aren't elite. Devonta Smith, Brandon Ayuk. We don't think these players are going to be elite. I don't think these players are going to be elite. I don't think those players are elite. I'm trying to trade them for players that I do believe are going to be elite, like Puka Nacua, Malik Nabers, Rome Odunze, Devon Achane. So who are you making bets on this year? Again, don't give me Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown. No. Players like Puka, players like Devon Achane, players like Malik Nabers. Who are you making bets on? Who are you willing to overpay for right now because you think you'll be locked out on them next year? You won't be able to get them, or the cost will be too prohibitive, because really, we want to try to save ourselves some money, right? Another good thing about this, or not a good thing, I should say, but part of this is if these players bust, let's just say they don't become elite. What did I lose? I didn't lose an elite player, Brandon Ayuk, Devonta Smith, etc. I just lost a player that's good. That's not going to cripple my roster if I'm wrong. If I'm right, sky's the limit, sky's the ceiling, whatever. If I'm right, I win big. If I'm wrong, I lose little. So that's what I'm doing. Who you making bets on? Let me know in the comments. Appreciate every one of you. Take care.